In this nugget, let's take a look at a final area of group policy settings that we can make, and those are the preference settings under both the computer configuration and the user configuration. Also in this nugget, I want to review with you how you would make sure your client has a good, refreshed group policy object to work with. So inside of our hands-on lab, I'm going to get logged into our DC NUG 1 machine, and notice we also have a client NUG machine in this lab that will actually apply some group policy object settings to. As I said, there was one area we haven't really looked at all, and that is the preferences area inside of group policy. So launch Server Manager when you can, and you're going to go up to the Tools menu, and we're going to go to Group Policy Management, of course. Now, we'll be lazy once again. We'll just pick on the default domain policy with these settings, but understand, in a lot of environments, you're going to be creating your own new shiny group policy object and linking it to just that area that you want in your Active Directory hierarchy. But we'll, like I said, just be lazy, go after the default domain policy, and we will right-click and edit that policy so we can see this last area of group policy object changes that we can make. So inside of our group policy management editor, there is the preferences area under the computer configuration and the user configuration. Notice it's made up of Windows settings and control panel settings in each of these areas that we can manipulate. So I would love for you to spend some time just looking these over and being familiar with what options exist here. For our hands-on lab purposes, let's do a couple of changes. So let's do this. For Windows settings under the computer configuration, let's go to Folders and let's add a folder to client machines. This is pretty cool. In fact, I actually do this. This is a best practice that I use. I'm going to create automatically on our clients a C:\temp folder. I like a nice temp directory right off the root of C that I use for various temporary purposes when I'm working on a machine. So we just gave that, hopefully, to all of our client systems. Let's go down under the Windows area and let's apply another change. Let's go to Power Options for our users inside of Control Panel, and let's go in and make it so that on the Windows 8 machine that we have as a client, the default power plan is going to be not balanced, but the high performance power plan. And we could even manipulate the nuanced settings of that power plan. But for right now, we'll just say, look, we want high performance to be the new active power plan. So we'll say, okay. And there are two changes that we've made to preferences inside this group policy object. So we'll close up all this stuff regarding group policy on DC NUG 1. And now let's go over to Client NUG and see if these changes were successful. So we're going to log in on Client NUG to our domain. And what you're going to find is that the settings probably didn't take effect. There's client-side extensions that run the different components of the group policy object that are coming down to this machine. And to make sure this machine doesn't stall at login, there's something called fast logon processing that would occur, and we might have skipped some of the components of the GPO. What do? In any time we want to make sure we have all of the group policy object settings applied, we do our GP update. Let's try it. So we're going to right click, go to command prompt, and on this system, we are going to run GP update. Now you see a lot of people run this always with the force switch. Probably a good idea. I'd like you to do it as well. What force does is it says, look, refresh the group policy object on this device and don't skip anything due to like fast processing behavior or processing optimizations. So make sure we get all components of the updated group policy object. So it's going to start updating the policy on this client. This will include the computer configuration. We'll see that in a moment. There it is. And it'll include the user policy configuration. We'll see that in a moment. There it is. And now this client should possess those preference changes that we made. Let's check it out. If we go into the File Explorer and we go into C, we see a nice temp folder. Look at that. Love it. And finally, if we right click and go to the Control Panel and we go to Hardware and Sound, under Hardware and Sound is Power Options, and we should see that the high performance plan is the new default on this client thanks to our group policy object. So thanks to the rounding out of what we can do with group policy in the preferences area, there's so much control we can have over our clients from our domain controllers thanks to the Active Directory dissemination of group policy. You gotta love it. In this nugget, we took a look at affecting the client with some preference changes, and we reviewed GP Update, particularly with the force switch, which is going to be critical to ensure your client does have recent changes you may have made. I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.